This is step 4 in the 14 steps found in the art of storytelling. This step is called first person. Now, personally, I like to tell most of my stories in the third person. There are definite advantages in doing that. Still, this is the best way to experience some of the emotions found in the various characters within the story. I've asked the storytellers to tell the story from one or two people that are in the story, first person. And then once they've experienced that, I've asked them to conclude by retelling the story in the third person and see how well they do at capturing some of those emotions that they found by going through the first person exercise. Let's join them now and see how well they do.
Well, I was on the beach with my mom. We were crawling through the stones. It was really fun, you know. And then all of a sudden, Mom looked at me and she said, "Why are you walking sideways like that? You should always walk straight forward with your toes pointed out." And I was really confused because I've always walked sideways, and I think Mom's always walked sideways too, and so has Dad and all my brothers and sisters and aunts and uncles, and they all walk sideways. So anyway, I said, "Mom, could you show me how to do that? Because I'd like to learn." Well, I was on the beach with my son, and we were crawling over the rocks. We were having such a fun time in the mist and hearing the waves crashing on the shore. And then I noticed that my son was walking sideways. And I thought, now, wait a minute, that can't be right. Because if you want to get somewhere, you should just get there, go straight for it. So I said to him, I said, "Oh, sweetie, why are you walking sideways like that?" Once there was a mother crab and her son. They were frolicking on the beach. And the mother crab said to her son, "Son, why are you walking sideways like that? You should always walk straight forward with your toes pointed out." And the son said to his mother, "Mother, could you show me how to do that?"
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay.
It was a meeting that I had to attend, I know, because all the mice got together, and it was my job to be there as well. I'm considered one of the older, wiser mice. I'm not in charge of the meeting mine. I'm just there to help bring a little bit of wisdom. And you could hear the clatter and the frustration as everyone was talking at once. The ideas. I mean, there was many ideas that came to the surface. I never really said anything. I was waiting to hear what everyone else had to say, and some of the ideas were really amazing. Putting guards up different places, which made me think. But then we had tried that at one time, I remember, and the guards got killed. Got eaten, and so I knew that didn't work. Well, finally, I heard the young mouse step up, and he cleared his throat and just really amazed me how loud and eloquent he spoke. And he spoke up with this idea of putting the bell on the cat. I went to the meeting all excited about things. We were talking about, just the fact that we're having a meeting. Sure, we had a lot of fear in the group, but the excitement of being a part of a big council and to be invited. I was a young mouse, but I was old enough now to be at the meeting. And of course, the proper thing is not to speak up and to be quiet. And so I sit there very quietly listening to all these ideas on how to take care of the cat problem. The problem, the fact that we live in constant fear of that cat. Well, I listened to one idea and another idea, and it dawned on me. I knew the answer. I mean, little old me knew the answer. It was so obvious that I was just waiting for someone else to give it. I kind of hoping no one else would, because I wanted to be my idea, and finally I waited until I thought, well, and I raised my little paw, and the moderator finally called on me, and with a little bit of a scowl, I was supposed to be there listening and taking it in, not talking, but he did call on me. So I stood up with as much dignity as I could. I looked around at everybody, and this was such a great idea. I was almost giddy, and I almost had flutters all up and down. But I took my time, like I had seen the others do. The whole congregation met together to discuss the problem. The problem was the cat. The whole crowd met together. Oh, the young ones were all excited because they were invited to the meeting that they were finally old enough to attend. Some of the older mice were there to bring wisdom to the meeting, but there was just an air of excitement anyway. And as we all tried to discuss what could be done to bring the situation to a conclusion.
So you want me to actually be Harvey?
Right.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna lumber on out to my field here. I'm gonna enjoy. It's been a long, cold winter, and I'm just enjoying this nice grass here. And my domain of cows, they're back there. They're staying there. They know I'm the boss. They're avoiding me. Just really enjoying the morning, the fresh smell of the grass and the flowers, cool breeze blowing, and then bzzz, yeah, whatever. I just kept on eating. Next thing I know, coming right down in my face, a gnat. I mean, how tiny. It's rough being a gnat, you just got to fight the winds, you got to fight all these other bugs flying around there. I think that'd be a perfect spot for me to rest. I'm just going to right there on the tip of that bull's horn. It's a pretty good spot. I can see all the grass. I can see the flowers. Whoa, he's got a bunch of cows out there waiting around for him. That's a pretty important dude, I guess. But I'm rested up now. I'm a gnat and I've got things to do, places to go, and people to see. Well, I should probably apologize to that bull. I just kind of come around right here in front of his face. I'm like, hey, Mr. Bull, I've been up there resting on your horns. I'm rested now. I'm going to leave. I hope I didn't bother you too much. You're probably glad to hear me go. My name's Farmer Jones. I'm just going to head on out there and check on my cattle. I don't want them breaking through or taking off. And I saw the funniest thing. There's my big prize bull. He's out there. He's grazing in that grass. Here comes a little bitty old gnat. Oh, you could tell that gnat. I mean, he was a tiny little thing, but you could tell he thought he was important. He was like zipping this way and zipping that way and just a buzzing, making a lot of noise for a little bitty critter. Why, and then he just, so quietly, he just lit right down on the top of my bull's horn. And I think that gnat thought he was going to get after that bull a little bit. And, well, then he took off and he got right in the bull's face and he was chattering away, no idea what he was saying, but I could tell my bull just kind of looked at him like, "Get out of my face, you tiny little creature."
Finally, I see the butcher. I go running up to him and I give him my best puppy dog face. You've probably seen the one, you know, and lo and behold, he gives me this nice big juicy bone. Oh, I am so excited. My tail is just wagging back and forth. I'm just so excited. I turn around and I start to run out of that village because I don't want anybody else, any other dog coming up to me. I'm going to have this big juicy bone all for myself. And then as I'm running along, I know a really safe place. It's on the other side of the lake. So I get on the bridge and I start running across the bridge when I happen to look down in the water. Oh, there's another dog down there. Oh, that dog is kind of ugly looking. But that bone that he has in his mouth, it's much bigger than the one I have in my mouth. Oh, I'm just so hungry and that looks so good. And now once there was a dog, a very hungry dog. And he came up to the butcher. The butcher was outside getting rid of some of his scraps. The dog looked up at that butcher with those big doggy eyes of his. Oh, the butcher felt so sorry for that dog. Looked like he hadn't eaten in a long time. Butcher knew better than that, but he took that bone and he threw it out to the dog.
One morning I went out and dug it up. No need to dig it up that day because the hole had been opened and the tin box was empty. Empty! I cried. Oh no! The passerby came along. He had chickens on his back. He'd been at market and he said, "What's the matter?" I said, "Someone has stolen my gold." He asked me, he said, "Why don't you keep that gold in the house where you can use it to buy things when you need them?" I told him right off, "Buy things? Why, I'd never spend my gold." Now, if I was to do it in first person of the passerby, I would have to start in the middle of the story and it would go something like this. I'd seen the fella. He was a recluse, a miser he was, never spent a dime, and every day he would see him going out and sitting under that oak tree, and every day he would go back in the house and shut the door. But this one day I was coming home from market, and I saw him out there, his head in his hands, moaning and tearing his hair out, and I'm thinking, what is the matter? I went over to him, and here I found an empty tin box. And he tells me his gold is all gone. Someone stole it. I just said to him, "Well, why don't you keep it in the house like regular folks, and when you need to buy something, it's handy." And he said he would never spend any of his gold, and I kind of already knew that. There was a miser. He was a recluse, he was, but he had one love, one passion, and that was his gold. He had buried it under an oak tree, and every morning, first thing, because it was the most important thing, he would walk out there and dig it up, sit on that stone and count those cold gold coins in his hand. And when he knew the count was just right, he would put them back in that box full of contentment and bury it back in that hole and roll a stone over it. And that would be his big task for the day. But one morning he went out there and found no gold. For you see, a thief had seen what he'd been doing and stolen the gold in the night. Oh, he cried, and he pulled his hair, and he tore his clothes, and he sat on the stone, and he wept.
It was difficult saying goodbye to our father. Mark and I had stood by his bedside and visited him morning and night and checked in on him at lunch, even though when we had gone out to do the chores during the day. And that last night, we could tell it was the last night. Our father told us in his weak voice about the treasure that he had hidden in the land that would provide for us. And then he breathed his last. So after the funeral and the proper grieving and mourning that we had done, Mark and I talked, and we decided that we would start plowing the land, turning over the soil, looking for that treasure. We thought it might be a box, we thought it might be some kind of a gunny sack, something that would have that money that our father had set aside for us. If I wanted to do another first person, I could maybe tell it from the point of view of maybe one of the wives. So, I saw something new in Michael. He had been grieving his father's death, but I saw something new in him. I saw him go out day after day working the fields, turning over the soil in a way that was far more industrious than I had ever seen him work before. And I asked him, Michael, what is it that has made you work so much harder than you have ever worked before? And Michael told me the words that his father had said on the night that he died. Once there was a farmer, and he had 2 sons, and his sons loved him very much. And as the farmer grew weak and older, he knew that his days were numbered, and he called his sons to him. And he gave his sons on his final night these words, Mark, Michael, I want you to know that I have buried a treasure for you on the land to sustain you after I am gone. Those words meant nothing to Michael and Mark on that day as they watched their father die and breathe his last. But they remember what he said later. And they thought they should look for that treasure. And that was what their father intended, was for them to have that treasure to sustain them. And so they worked harder than they had ever worked. They went out day after day, turning the soil on one field and then the next.